Hello and welcome to the Streams of Winter. I'm Yolkboy and we are Radio Westeros. Thanks so much to all of you for tuning in to this live stream this afternoon. Today we'll be talking about a really amazing character and what she might be doing in the Winds of Winter. It's Brienne of Tarth, everyone.
Yay!
What has led Brienne into the hands of the BWB? What is now going to happen to her? And what will her future be in the upcoming book and beyond? To help me answer these questions, here's the other half of Radio Westeros, Lady Gwyn.
Hey, everyone. Really happy to be back here live streaming with you, talking all about Brienne of Tarth this week. And this week, our special guest here down below us is Tana Ford. When we wrote this document, because this stream was supposed to be last week, we were going to introduce her as Eisner and Hugo Award nominated artist Tana Ford. But since we wrote that, you've won not only an Eisner Award, but last night, a Hugo Award awarded to you by none other than George R.R. Martin.
I mean, you guys, George said my name. By the way, everyone needs to call me Tanya from now until forever because that's my name now.
I said to you last night, you could call me Jan for the rest of my life and I'd be happy with that. I don't care.
I was like signed Tanya, and then my friend Zan wrote a Tana, but with like the little squiggle over the N, and I was like, that's it. That's the pronunciation.
That's all you need. Just one little mark.
What a night. Oh my God. I'm still, if I'm a little dazed, if I'm a little floaty, it's because I am still out here on cloud 9.
Yes. Well, it's okay. You can live there now.
Oh my goodness.
As our friend Joe Magician said in the chat, your legal name now is Hugo Award winner Tana Ford. So that's forever. And if you want to live on cloud 9 for the rest of your life, it's okay too.
Well, Tana, if you're on cloud 9, what you need is a good strong drink.
Yes,
we need
a good strong drink. So I used to do a podcast called Westeros Wheneverly with my friend Dave until he moved away, and we realized that the special sauce was him and I in the same room, just riffing and drinking themed cocktails. And so I made a Blue Beauty tonight to celebrate Brienne of Tarth. Look at this blue, beautiful drink.
Is beautiful.
It's nice, right? And we have a variation on a theme, which is one of my favorite things to do with themed cocktails. And so mine I made with a pink rosé instead of, it's basically a gin and tonic, but I used a base of effervescent pink rosé instead of tonic, and then Bombay Sapphire gin with a splash of blue curacao over ice, and stir it in, and you get this bright blue. Actually, I don't know if you can see it. There might be a little bit left. I initially made it in this little wine glass, and you can see that the blue curacao separates from the like light pink rosé. So you get this pink and blue theme that I really love and hope we can talk about in the episode. So it all comes back in. So that was my version of the Blue Beauty. What did you guys make?
Well, we also made, we're going to call them Blue Beauties too, but we did not have rosé. So we have also Bombay Sapphire. We've got blue curacao, and we have elderflower tonic. So there's a little bit of a flowery kind of thing in there.
Elderflower tonic, I did not know exist, and B sounds delicious.
It is. It's really good.
So it's pretty tasty. It's not going to last long.
No, just in case, I did bring an extra. So.
Dave and I, back when we had our podcast, I made us a gift one year, Westeros Wheneverly. You can't really see it unless it's all chilled. Yes. But it says "All men must drink," which is our tagline.
That was your tagline. Yes. Yeah. And we were big fans of you back in the day. And I do think that we won a Westeros Wheneverly contest. And
you did.
You sent us a beautiful, beautiful drawing of artwork of me and Yolkboy in full battle regalia. And I have made that into a t-shirt, which if you can see here.
Yes.
You're
wearing the it's on the
t-shirt. On my t-shirt. Below it, where you can't see, it says knowledge is a weapon, arm yourselves well before you go into battle. Because of course we're fully armored with our knowledge. But all you Radio Westeros listeners, if you follow us on social media, you might recognize this as the image we use as our avatar. So on Twitter, on Facebook. So we can now say that our avatar was kindly made for us by Hugo Award winner Tana Ford.
Unbelievable, you guys. And it's very rare that I do fan art. There are some artists that do a ton of fan art, and I'm not one of them, but I loved your work so much. You guys, the two of you have been doing such stellar analysis for so many years that you unlocked what had already been my favorite book series, but you made it, you helped me understand themes and character development, Arthurian stuff that I don't know. You wove it all together beautifully. I mean, you guys are the best. So
Thank you. Well, we love it, and we love you, and we're happy that you're here.
All men must drink.
All men must drink.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, so today, a quick reminder of spoilers. We'll be talking about the books, sample chapters, and potentially making TV show comparisons. So spoilers everything, I guess. And now let's get started with a packed episode today, all about Brienne of Tarth. And today we're going to do something different because Tana wanted a quick lightning round of a game we're going to play called Stump Gwyn. What do you say, Tana?
Stumpin' Gwyn. This is a segment that Dave and I came up with because I would have to remind him of whatever topic we were talking about that day. So I'd give him easy questions to sort of get the juices flowing because we didn't really do any homework. We just talked about stuff we liked. So Stumpin' Gwyn, will you get the questions right today? Stumpin' Gwyn. It's a lightning round. There will be 5 questions. I'll go through them as quick as possible, and there'll be, I don't know how many right answers, but feel free to play along at home. Question 1. In A Song of Ice and Fire, Brienne of Tarth was raised to follow the faith of the Seven, a religion that asserts there is but one God with many aspects or faces. Can you name all 7 faces of this one God?
I think right. Father, Mother, Maiden, Crone, Warrior, Smith, Stranger.
Yes, you got them all. 7 points on the board. Da-ding, da-ding. Question 2. Yes, you can drink. Question 2. In the World Book, Maester Yandel writes, in the 7-pointed star, it is said that the 7 themselves walked among the people in the hills of Andalos, and it was they who crowned Hugor of the Hill and promised him and his descendants great kingdoms in a foreign land. While it may be fanciful to think the 7 walked among the Andals, there has been an earthly avatar of the 7-faced god offering protection to both Brienne and her ancestor Dunk. Which of the 7 faces actively saves Brienne and Dunk's lives? 3 possible answers, bonus points. Yes, 3 possible answers and bonus points if you can name the event where they were saved. So what avatar, what of those 7 walks with them?
Is it the maiden when she said no? Should I just go through all 7?
It is the Smith. So when I was doing research for this, I was reading some of the Hedge Knight, and I noticed this quote: Steely Pate, the Smith from the Hedge Knight, whose upgrades to Dunk's armor and shield quite literally save his life, says this right before that holy battle of the 7. Dunk thinks, so many come to see me die, thought Dunk bitterly, but he wronged them. A few steps further on, a woman called out, good fortune to you. And an old man stepped up to take his hand and said, may the gods give you strength, sir. Then a begging brother in a tattered brown robe said a blessing on his sword, and a maid kissed his cheek. They are for me. Why? He asked Pate. What am I to them? A knight who remembered his vows, the Smith said. So in that light, can you think of any Smith that saves Brian's life in the main story?
Oh yes, since you've given me the answer of which aspect of the 7 I'm looking for, yes, it would be Gendry, and someone in the chat got there before me too. So.
Yes, no spoilers, chat. Play along at home. Yes, Gendry Baratheon, who is literally smithing at the inn at the crossroads. Gendry, she said in a low voice, you'll want a sword and armor. These are no man's friends. The boy came and stood beside her, his hammer in his hand. And then for the third one, do you have any guesses? So this is the smith, but he's not a traditional smith. That's the hint I'll give you. And he does play a big part in Brienne's chapters, which is why I wanted to highlight him as a potential smith avatar walking on the world. He has a faithful dog.
Yes,
named Dog.
Yeah.
I think the argument, I would like to make the argument that he is maybe an earthly avatar, right? Like, I'm not saying that George is writing the 7 walking the earth, but I think it's a fun thing I wanted to point out. Here's the quote. Brienne cleared her throat. At evenfall, my father Septon always said there was but one god. One god with 7 aspects. That's so, my lady. And you are right to point it out. But the mystery of the 7 who are one is not easy for simple folk to grasp, and I am nothing if not simple. So I speak of 7 gods. Maribald turned back to Podrick. I have never known a boy who did not worship the warrior. I am old, though, and being old, I worship the smith. Without his labor, what would the warrior defend? Every town has a smith, every castle. They make the plows we need to plant our crops, the nails we use to build our ships, the iron shoes that save the hooves of our faithful horses, the bright swords of our lords. No one could doubt the value of the smith, and so we name the 7 in his honor. But we might easily have called him the farmer, or the fisherman, the carpenter, or the cobbler. And I wanted to point that out because I think so much of Brian's story is about defending the small folk, the laborers, and the people of the 7 kingdoms. And so I find these little moments where, like, the smith just tends to show up with Dunk, with Brienne, and I would say bonus points if you name Donal Noy, the most famous smith maybe in the series, but he's up at the Night's Watch. So, all right. Question 4, lightning round. We're almost done. No chance and no choice. Brienne at the inn at the crossroads is at the inn at the crossroads when outlaws, led by a monster wearing a hound's helmet, rides up, threatening violence. Question: how many outlaws are in this raiding party?
This is wicked. 5? 7. Of course there are
7.
Of course it's 7.
Right? Of course there are 7. We're variations on a theme. 7, Brienne thought again, despairing. She had no chance against 7. She knew. No chance and no choice. Final question. Question number 5. Let's see here. Okay. The Revenant, and this one I think you guys will get. We'll see. I don't want to speak out of turn here. The Revenant, Catelyn Stark, finally speaks in Brienne's last point of view chapter. Her words are translated to Brienne, telling her that Lady Stoneheart wants 3 things. Lady Gwen, what 3 things does Lady Stoneheart want?
She wants to feed the crows like they did at the Red Wedding. She wants Freys and Bolton's dead.
Yes.
And she wants Jaime Lannister.
Ding, 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 ding. You got it all. You got it all. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. That's the lightning round. Bonus question for the audience if you want to just, get an extra bonus point. What is Brienne of Tarth's dad's name?
I know this.
2 bonus points are possible if an extra bonus point if you know his title or what they call him. So 2 bonus points on the line.
Okay. Do you want me to say?
You got it. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well,
you know it?
Her father is Lord Selwyn, and his title is the Evenstar, which is
ding, 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 ding,
probably a nod to Lord of the Rings. So.
Ding, 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 ding.
Although the Evenstar in Lord of the Rings is female, but who cares? George can do what he wants.
You did it, guys. I was not able to stump Gwen.
Yeah, you kind of stumped me.
I I did not. Oh,
got
you're
there.
so good. And your trivia is so good too. So I never get more than half, it seems, from your trivia stuff. But thanks for playing along, guys. Give a like and a subscribe.
Thank you for bringing that. That was fun. All right, so we get going with what else? We got more to say about Brienne.
Yeah, let's turn to the analysis of Brienne, and we thought we'd start with a couple of really pertinent quotes just as kind of groundwork for the rest of the episode. So here's an early description of Brienne. Beauty, they called her, mocking. The hair beneath the visor was a squirrel's nest of dirty straw, and her face. Brienne's eyes were large and very blue, a young girl's eyes, trusting and guileless. But the rest. Her features were broad and coarse, her teeth prominent and crooked, her mouth too wide, her lips so plump they seemed swollen. 1,000 freckles speckled her cheeks and brow, and her nose had been broken more than once. Pity filled Catelyn's heart. Is there any creature on earth as unfortunate as an ugly woman? And yet, when Renly cut away her torn cloak and fastened a rainbow in its place, Brienne of Tarth did not look unfortunate. Her smile lit up her face, and her voice was strong and proud as she said, "My life for yours, your grace. From this day on, I am your shield. I swear it by the old gods and the new."
I love that. I love that introduction of her character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do feel like I've been talking a lot. I did have a follow-up to this because my question is, one of the things that I love about Brienne's character is that she straddles the place between man and woman, gender binaries. She doesn't fit in one place or another. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast with you is because I'm a masculine presenting woman, and it is rare to see reflections of people like me in media, especially popular media, stuff like this. And so Brienne of Tarth, with her sweet nature and her non-conformity, just opens my whole heart. And looking a little deeper, scratching the surface, this is actually a shout out to Chloe from Girls Gone Canon Cast. Chloe's clothing corner changed how I think about it, elevated how I think about the clothing in the show. I know that in the show that the books are based on, in the show that happens in my mind, like Jaime Lannister, it's very important that he is wearing his golden armor and not his white armor when he upholds his knight's vows but breaks his Kingsguard vows. So things like that I was able to get. But Chloe brought the dresses that Sansa wears, that Cersei in her greens and in her blacks, to this whole new level. And through that lens, I started looking at what Brienne of Tarth is described as wearing, especially because she's uncomfortable in ladies' finery and more comfortable in men's mail. And we get this later in that same introductory chapter to her. Brienne of Tarth had been seated at the far end of the high table. She did not gown herself as a lady, but chose a knight's finery instead. A velvet doublet quartered rose and azure, breeches and boots, and a fine-tooled sword belt, her new rainbow cloak flowing down her back. And while rereading that rose and azure, you'll notice there's a theme, stuck out to me, because we have her wearing essentially the rainbow flag of gayness, right? Of gender nonconformity, of otherness. And I wondered in this moment, is this a nod to the trans flag? Or if not directly to the trans flag, to what we consider in our culture to be male and female colors, pink and blue. And I printed out a thing. For those of you that don't know, this is what the trans flag looks like, right? So it's this powder blue and this rose. And so what do you guys think? Is this intentional? Is George quartering the velvet doublet quartered rose and azure? Like, is he doing this intentionally, or did this just, what do you think?
I think that perhaps the flags are not intentional, but if anyone wants to read it that way, I think that they should do, because it seems it seems like it's down to you to interpret it that way.
Yeah.
I like what you said about the blues and the kind of reds or pinks as well as the kind of the spectrum of the male and female. What do
if
you
she
think,
doesn't,
Lady Gwyn?
if she doesn't quite fit in either place.
Exactly.
It's all
Yeah, and
jumbled up,
I
it's
would,
all
I would
checkered.
think that would be sort of have been on his mind, whether it was intentionally referencing something or whether he was just thinking of, like, that the cultural pink and blue, which is obviously where the trans flag comes from.
Right.
So,
so they might have the same root. If not a direct reference, it's coming from the same part of the subconscious.
And I love that this could be read as a nod to modern non-binary iconography, right? What better character than Brienne of Tarth to be wearing, to be wearing my flags, to be wearing my colors. I am not a trans person, but I am a masculine presenting woman, and I don't know, I just love her so much. Anyway, so I wanted to drop in and give a nod to Clothing Corner.
Thank you for that. We're glad to include that.
Thanks. And I wonder, from those quotes that we read, what else is being conveyed about her, Lady Gwyn?
Well, there's something very important being conveyed about the contrast between physical beauty and inner beauty, which is going to be very integral to her arc. And we're going to hopefully get back to discussing that later. But the theme of beauty, very, very important. And, you're kind of hit with it right at the very beginning. She's immediately portrayed as not beautiful, but
I love the focus on the blue eyes too. How guileless, how young, how innocent. Everything else is so rough, so objectively ugly, or is seen in the narrative as that. But the eyes,
those eyes,
the window to the soul.
They are, and and that'll be another sort of a connection that we'll, I think, mention it a little bit later too. But those blue eyes really, to me, kind of call back to Sansa Stark, who has these very, she's also got big blue eyes, and she's also very kind of innocent, and they do have a lot in common.
They like to daydream, don't they, in their own ways?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no.
More in common than you would think from the first introduction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man.
Okay, so as we're going to be talking about the Winds of Winter, why don't we set that up and go to A Feast for Crows on this kind of epic quest to find Sansa, or ending up at Crackclaw Point and all around that area. So what do we learn in those chapters about Brienne and her character, and what is so important about the chapters? Because a lot of people dismiss them as kind of boring and unnecessary, but for Brienne's character, they're quite integral. What do you think, Lady Gwyn?
Say again. I was reading the chat. Sorry.
I was reading the chat too, and I'm going to cut in because I get to be the one that kind of skitters all over the place. Somebody said that that Brienne is kind of a mashup of Sandor and Sansa, which is something I never thought of, and that seems amazing. Yeah, it's kind of like Sansa's innocence, but in a Sandor body, and she just, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yes, I do too. I do too. So,
I said, Lady Gwyn, about the journey to Crackclaw Point, and what do we learn about Brienne in these often dismissed chapters?
Well, it's not just about Brienne. I mean, generally, this is the viewpoint of a region that is absolutely devastated by war. These chapters are kind of the definition of the feast for crows that comes after a brutal war has been waged in these lands. But specifically to Brienne, this is where we gain her point of view. We learn a lot about her, about her hopes and her dreams, her backstory, what motivates her, which is honor, vows, all those things that are the essence of knighthood, the trappings of the true knight. And her backstory furthers the theme of inner versus outer beauty. As she seeks Sansa, we learn, I was just saying, perhaps to our surprise, how much she and Sansa really have in common. They're idealistic. They venerate stories and legends. You think about Brienne remembering, that story about help me here, the maid with the sword when she's at the Whispers.
Yes.
And also hearing Nimbledick's stories.
Hero of the story, Nimbledick, the great
hero of the
crowd.
fandom.
True hero of us all.
Oh, we could do a Nimbledick show and just have little crab legs.
Maybe we should do a Nimbledick live stream someday. But like Sansa in A Feast for Crows, we'll see that Brienne spends an awful lot of time being disabused of the notion that life is a song. Life does not follow along with these pretty little stories and legends. It's really much more grim and brutal than all of that. And they're on a parallel journey in that sense, I think.
One of the things that I think you've hit on is, so for Sansa fits in the story, right? She gets to be the maiden. She gets to be the princess. She gets to be with the hero. And growing up, Brienne is idolizing the knights, the men, the fighters, the warriors. She wants to be that thing in the story. She holds up those ideals. And so Sansa can just one for one place herself into the stories, into the songs. But Brienne, in order for her to do it, there has to be a kind of denial of self, or like she has to not see what she is, who she is, what her body is, in order to fulfill what are her ideals, her songs, right? And that's going to create a kind of discordance in her, which makes her one of the most fascinating and, for me, one of the most beloved characters. I feel you, girl.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so in these Feast chapters, Feast is a book that really relies on themes. It's very strong thematically. And these chapters are no different. So, Tana, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the themes of this kind of feast arc for Brienne.
The themes are definitely about vows, what it means to be a true knight of Westeros. When I think about Brienne, I always think about Dunk. I think about what it means to be a true knight, who gets to be a true knight. I love finding those kind of similarities, and that golden ring that's unattainable for, reasons of class or reasons of gender. The vow that Brienne swears to Cat is one that tumbles around a lot. You guys had spoken in one of your most recent things about Catelyn Stark and the vows that she made Jaime swear at Sword Point, and you did beautiful analysis on it. One of the things, and I was thinking that the vow that Brienne swears to Cat and that Cat swears to Brienne are given to us so that later they're going to both be broken. Quote, "The tall girl knelt awkwardly, unsheathed Renly's longsword and laid it at her feet. Then I am yours, my lady, your liege man, or whatever you would have me be. I will shield your back and keep your counsel and give my life for yours, if need be. I swear it by the old gods and the new. And I vow that you shall always have a place by my hearth and meat at my table. And pledge to ask no service of you that might bring you into dishonor. I swear it by the old gods and the new." I think you're going to break that one, Catelyn. I don't think you're going to keep that one. Later, the last note that I have in our document, spoiler, is the thought that Brienne has after learning about Cat's murder of finding Sansa. Quote, "I will find her, my lady," Brienne swore to Lady Catelyn's restless shade. "I will never stop looking for her. Oh, I will give up my life if need be. Give up my honor. give up all my dreams, but I will find her. I think you're going to do that, Brian. I think George is going to make you do that.
Yes. Yeah. I think, he is. I think that's fantastic. This vow thing is going to be such a huge theme in the Winds of Winter, that triangle of vows between Jaime, Brienne, and Catelyn, the knots and loopholes that are created by those vows. I mentioned beauty earlier, and we'll keep coming back to this, but another theme we want to watch out for, because it's very likely going to be relevant to the BWB storyline, and it's introduced in Brienne's chapters, is broken men. And it's a concept that we see really fleshed out in A Feast for Crows. And then finally, Thoros alludes to it in the Hollow Hill when he's talking with Brienne. He says, justice was what we were about when Beric led us, or so we told ourselves. We were king's men, knights and heroes, but some nights are dark and full of terror, my lady. War makes monsters of us all. Brienne, who's busy being disillusioned about knights, says, are you saying we're monsters? He says, I'm saying we're human. You're not the only ones with wounds, Lady Brienne. Some of my brothers were good men when this began. Some were less good, shall we say. And there are those who say it does not matter how a man begins, but only how he ends, which is so great, because that statement really feeds into the idea of redemption, which is something else that we'll maybe talk about a little in this one, but maybe in a different live stream, because it's
it really drives home the despair, I think, and how you can start with such noble, lofty goals to be the king's men, to protect the small folk, and fall so far from that one of the things that I love about the series as a whole is that there are consequences. Actions have consequences. Theon is tortured and loses parts of himself. It changes who he is, right? Like, the broken men break. They're different. They don't get to be Robin Hood anymore. They're not. They get lost. And I love that, and the finality of saying it's not where you start, it's where you end is terrifying, I think.
It is for some of them. I mean, but you can flip that around and say maybe for some of them, it might be, maybe the ones that start out less good might end up
maybe
more
like good. A Jaime Lannister?
Perhaps. Maybe.
So I guess Brienne's challenge is to not break and to be the one character who started off with noble ambitions, who, she gets wrecked in A Feast for Crows. She gets her face torn. Yep. Is she going to pay that forward to someone else, or is she going to carry on being a kind of noble character? I think we all know that she's got a pure heart and that she's headed for good things. Okay, so I was thinking about the relationship in these feast chapters between Brienne and Podrick, and it really reminds me of one of a book that I love, Don Quixote. I think that's a purposeful nod in some places, but it also carries parallels within the text. Lady Gwyn, what's the parallels I'm talking about?
3 words: dunk and egg.
Just 3 words for that one. Okay, so patron Quarren Halfhand points out that Brienne is a confirmed relative of Duncan the Tall. So how is this all relevant? Do you think it's relevant, Tana?
I do, and I think that the same themes and struggles that we see Dunk and Egg going through, we're seeing Brian and Pod going through. But we're also seeing an examination, I think, of what it means to be an outlaw or a broken man. The second of the Dunk and Egg novellas is called The Sworn Sword, and that story opens with a pair of skeletal outlaws in a crow cage, hanging face to face with their tongues torn out. And it says, quote, "Skeletons in skin, and the skin is green and rotting." It could be they were in some outlaw band. At dusk, they had heard a harper sing "The Day They Hanged Black Robin." Ever since, Egg had been seeing gallant outlaws behind every bush. Dunk had met a few outlaws while squiring for the old man. He was in no hurry to meet any more. None of the ones he'd known had been especially gallant. He remembered one outlaw Sir Arlen had helped hang, who had been fond of stealing rings. He would cut off a man's fingers to get at them, but with women, he preferred to bite. And when I read that, I was like, I see what you're doing, George. I think I see what you're doing here. Maybe we have outlaws like to bite, I guess, with women.
Funny, huh?
That's as deep as my analysis goes, guys.
Well, yeah. Were we going to talk about, let's see. What else you got, Matt? Go boy.
Okay, at the end of Feast, Brienne bravely takes on members of the Bloody Mummers, as it's been in the discussion so far. So Brienne really wants to defend orphans at the orphanage that is the crossroads. So why don't we review what exactly happened in this fight, because it's really leading up to the climax of Brienne's arc in that book. Lady Gwyn, take us away. What happened in this fight here?
Well, she's faced two monsters from her past and survived. There's two less bloody mummers in the world, but the cost is the revelation of Brienne's apparent Lannister affiliation to the Brotherhood Without Banners, which in turn places her quest to find Sansa Stark in jeopardy. And that is everything to her, because as we've seen, not only is it based on finding Sansa, but it's the finding, it's Jaime's honor. It's something she's doing for Jaime.
Yeah.
And that, not to mention the physical cost to her, of course, from this battle at the end with these bloody mummers, which is tremendous.
Yeah, and then of course, Lady Stoneheart led the BWB to take Brienne captive, and Lady Stoneheart, she's very vengeful, as we know, and she threatens to kill not only her, but her companions, Hyle and young Pod. He's a boy. George says Brienne shouted the word sword in order to save them all. So when Brienne shouts the word sword, she's really entering into some kind of verbal contract with the BWB and Lady Stoneheart. So what are the implications then, Lady Gwyn, of whatever Brienne has just agreed to that she doesn't even realize?
Mm-hmm. Well, she's apparently just promised to kill Jaime Lannister, or at least deliver him to the Brotherhood to face their justice, which apparently these days just amounts to hanging people out of turn. So we'll probably come back to the theme of vows again. We've been there quite a bit today. It's pretty important. But right here, she's made this new vow, which is in direct opposition to a number of past vows. So we start to see the vows getting kind of tangled up, right? Most pertinently, the vow she made to Catelyn to keep Jaime safe. She swore, I will keep him safe and deliver him, so, okay. And then she's got her knightly vows that she strives to live by, which over and over again, we see variants of a true knight is sworn to protect those who are weaker than himself or die in the attempt, in her point of view. So killing a man without a sword hand, one who she was previously ordered to protect and to whom she herself had made vows of her own, is definitely going to result in some strong cognitive dissonance for Our Lady Knight.
Yeah. And she's seen him naked.
Whoa!
And she loves him. So there's that, right? Like it's complicated. People are complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Brienne is not past having her own, feelings and urges and so on, right?
I don't think she even really knows what they are, but
maybe not. Maybe not yet.
Oh. I just feel like she should be on a softball team somewhere. Sweetie.
It's true.
So now we know from A Dance with Dragons that Brienne has in fact intercepted Jaime Lannister and sort of tricked him. It was not really her call, but that's what she had to do. And so this old pair are reunited once again. So where is this plot line and kind of dual arc headed? And also, are they in real danger? You know, could we see both of them murdered in the upcoming book? What do you think, Tana?
I have a question for you two geniuses, because I know you just did this recently. How far away is the Hollow Hill from where Jaime is? You guys just timed this out, because like you did the math of the, you know, the BWB secret network and where Jaime is and where he moved and by midnight, and like you've done it. So do we know how long they have to ride together until they get to where they're going? Do we have any guesses on that?
My guess is she says to him when she meets him at Pennytree there and says, come with me. You know, it's a day's journey.
Yeah.
To get to Sansa. The Hound has her. We have to, you know.
Yeah.
I believe that's probably accurate. I believe it's about a day's journey to the Hollow Hill from where they are, because what they have to do is get from Pennytree, which is kind of midway from Raventree to River Run, and then from there down to the Hollow Hill, which is quite near High Heart and just a little bit south of the Run. So I think about a day's journey is probably right.
I can't imagine that that they don't have a conversation. It is hard for me. One, it would be boring, but two, Jaime wants to talk to his girlfriend, and she's really fucked up. Her face is all bit up and she looks terrible, and he's worried about her and he loves her. And so I feel like they're gonna have to talk about it, and she's not good at finding her way out of conversations smoothly. But he's great at conversation. So I wonder if there'll be something there, if something will happen there, or he'll pick up on something. You know, but as far as her killing him, no, man, that's not how this goes. They're gonna dance with swords, but it's not gonna be like that.
No, and I also don't think that they are in real danger in terms of like, can we see them dropping out the story at this stage? I think George has got very full arcs planned for Cersei, Brienne, and Jaime, and I don't see any three of them like dropping out the story early.
There is that weird dream, the Weirwood Stump dream that Jaime has, and in it, you know, he's got his lit up sword, and then Brienne arrives to sort of save him, and she's asking, "Where are we, Jaime? Who are these?" And his sword goes out, but hers stays lit. And the beasts that she asks about in that section are, and I don't have them exactly, but I think it is a cave lion. What's down here, Jaime? Is it a cave lion? Dire wolves? A bear? And he says, no, ghosts. And I wonder if those three, like, why choose those three? Why choose a cave lion, Jaime Lannister, dire wolves, the BWB, or a bear? I mean, maybe it's a stretch that Brienne is a bear, but she was fighting one. And also it tied into the bear pit fight. So like maybe there's some imagery nods there, just like a sprinkle, like a little Sousson, a little dash of bitters on the top there, maybe.
Right. I definitely think that dream is pertinent to what's about to happen with them. I think we talk about it in our current episode, that actually the dream probably has multiple meanings. Sorry, it definitely has. When he has the dream, it's what convinces him to go back to get her out of the bear pit. It may have more meaning, you know, in the future. There may be more to it going forward. But I think if you think about it, Jaime underground facing the ghosts of his past with Brienne at his side, and she's holding a sword that is in the way of dreams, the identical sword to the one that his father had just given him, which Tywin hadn't given Jaime a sword when he had the dream, but then he did give him a sword, which Jaime gave to Brienne. I think that can be viewed as a metaphor for what is going to happen in this trial by Lady Stoneheart, if he has a trial, if he's granted a trial, which I think he will be, in the Hollow Hill. So he's going to have to answer to all the ghosts or crimes of his past, right? So that's... Yes.
What's the sword's name? Stump Gwyn. What's the sword's
Sword's
name?
is Oathkeeper.
It's about
Go
keeping
back to
oaths.
vows.
It's
All
almost
of
like
that.
there's
Yes.
themes.
And she is going to be the one that's is there standing. His sword goes out, meaning he can't fight for himself. So when he has this trial, the person that is going to be his champion with the sword, Oathkeeper, which was given by Tywin, is going
Which
to be
has
Brienne.
Ned's blood in it, by the way.
Yes. Oh boy.
So I mean, it's Ned's own sword, right? Which is cut in half, split, but then also has Ned's own blood in it. Like there's.
Okay, I want to stay on the topic of this trial and explore further about this trial, because this will be the first thing in the next book from this storyline. So patron Christine wonders if there's a chance Jaime will be tried for his perceived crimes and have to defend himself in a trial by combat. What would be the options there, and how might the theme of vows be employed? Lady Gwyn, have you got anything to say? I know you have.
Yes, it's a big topic with a capital B and a capital T. There is this triangle of vows between Jaime, Brienne, and Cat that is going to take front and center when they are reunited for the first time since a Clash of Kings. So think about that.
It's gonna be so good.
3 whole
It's
books.
the event of the century.
Will
This
be.
event has everything. It's got dire. It's got cave lions. It takes place in a hollow hill. It's got broken men and outlaws. It's got Brienne.
And a flaming, well, maybe
It's got a flaming sword.
Or at least flaming sword.
It's got a fire priest. What's not to like?
Exactly.
Oh my
Yes.
god.
Yep. So it's the theme of vows will be endlessly
gonna be so
important.
good.
Yes.
It's going to be so good. And I wonder, so what is your take? What is your take on how Lady Stoneheart is going to be? When we see her in Brian's chapter, she has to am I making this up? She had to hold her throat together to make words, and then it's translated through Lem or a Northman or something.
Yeah.
We don't hear her. We only see what she does. And we see her translated. I think that might be building up to a big moment where she sits in judgment with Robb's crown. She's got Robb's crown now. And what do you want to see, the two of you? What do you hope for? Give me, pull back the curtain and let me see inside your beautiful minds. What do you think Catelyn Stark is going to be like as Mother Merciless in front of Brienne and Jaime?
I know. I can't even imagine, because it's,
It's going to be interesting to see if there's any, to what extent there's a human being with the usual, what's her limit?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Is she completely lost it with zero limits? Will she kill anyone she perceives as a foe, rightly or wrongly? Or is there some sense of justice and fairness? And this is where the vows come in, because that is the one thing that should appeal to her as a former lady of the nobility. She should recognize the vow that she swore with Brienne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with Jaime.
And and there's that thing with Beric, as he died 6 times or something, and he lost more and more of his humanity. She was dead for 3 days and is, super messed up, but she's only come back once. You would think that she's got, and I guess that's the big question, how much of her humanity remains inside her? But, is she still in some way human? Is she just an avatar of revenge and destruction and death? I wondered where the two of you in your private minds are thinking on this.
I think that it would be a sort of betrayal of Catelyn if there was 0 of Catelyn left in this character. She must carry forward something, just a small remnant of, I thought she was a beautiful person on the whole. Yeah. And it would be a betrayal of her just to kind of resurrect her as just this mindless scheming zombie that would just kill everyone, rightly or wrongly. I think that would be going too far, and that it would be far more interesting if there was some kind of conflict within Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah. Because she's the mother, right? Like if we're talking about the avatars of the seven-faced god walking the earth, Catelyn Stark is the mother. And if she thinks about Brienne when they first meet in the opening description you read, Yoke Boy, of her almost childlike, right? There's a mother's perspective looking at this human being. And I wonder if any of that is still retained in what she has become, and that the strong arming up front, I thought Pod, Pile of Hyle, and Brienne were all dead, right? Like I had no idea that Pod's not dead and that Hyle might still be alive. I thought they were just dead and that the BWB is a bunch of murderers, and I just take it at face value. I don't think critically about this stuff, which is why I need you guys to tell me, no, they're still alive. Lady, Mother Merciless is doing a thing here. She's proving a point. And so I wonder how much of it is strong arming it first to come back and flip the script, change, people that just read it at face value like me, flip the script and reveal that Catelyn is still alive, or that some part of her, that there's a bigger plan or something. Is she moving Jaime around the board and Brienne around the board to a purpose? And the reveal of what that purpose might be, I think, could be really satisfying, because they always are with George.
Yeah.
that hat he wore last night, you guys. He wore a silver hat like this. Oh my God.
Your award. That was great.
Oh my God, that hat. Who knew that hat existed? Oh, there was I saw in the scroll a question I never thought about this, so let me tangent again. If a Valyrian steel sword is lit on fire by Thoros of Myr, would it react differently than common steel? Thoughts?
Possibly. I mean, you have,
I think it would be harder or impossible to damage. You know how you can light a standard sword on fire and it will kind of weaken it.
Yes.
Then you have to take it to Tobo Mott to get it fixed.
Yes.
But I imagine with Valyrian steel that you could, do that, if a magician could do that, and it would probably not degrade the steel because they stay sharp and stuff. I'm just thinking that they're more durable, right?
And
in a magical way.
There's the whole idea that dragonfire shapes, can smooth stone and they can weave it and whatever. And the idea that fire is the elemental thing of Targaryens and Valyrians. And so I had never considered this. Your chat people are freaking brilliant. That's such a great point. I don't know. And in the dream, the swords are on fire, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so what happens? What happens when it's on fire? That would be, and that would just be badass. That would just be really great.
So it certainly would, especially when you carry it forward to the upcoming war against the others, and you need to kill as many whites as possible, and a flaming sword would be
maybe it makes it sharper, or there's some sort of magical quality to it or something.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so
derailed.
I don't know where to pick up. Okay, so why don't we go back to what we were talking about, Stoneheart. So she's got reasons in her own mind to despise both Jaime and Brienne.
Yeah.
So do we see them getting out of their situation or not, given that the odds are stacked against them, but maybe story-wise, it's a different story? What do you think, Tana?
I think, so based on the vows and the idea that Catelyn could be thinking, playing three-dimensional chess, would all work out, except the last thing she heard was the Northern, what's his name, Ramsay's dad, say, Jaime Lannister sends his regards.
Yeah.
So the thing that's so brilliant about this series is that instead of following specific story notes one after another, did this chapter, this builds to that, it has all that, but then George drops this hammer that scatters all the pieces everywhere. So we could expect Catelyn to behave a certain way, except the last thing she heard before she saw her son murdered and everyone die was Jaime Lannister sends his regards. I feel like I don't have an answer. I only have an, oh my God, there's pieces everywhere now.
It's hard to overcome. But
I mean, what do you think it's going to do? What do you think?
It's going to make it very, very difficult. I do think that there is going to be a demand for a trial, similar to the way that Sandor was granted a trial. Because we've seen that even if it's a mockery, they do still give trials.
Yeah.
They gave Brienne a trial.
Didn't they give Merit a weird trial?
It was kind of a weird, like, you know, it was a total, just like a kangaroo court, I think.
Yeah, that was a sham, but
it was a sham.
He was guilty.
But they still do it. And I think that if Jaime and Brienne say, well, hey, we need a trial here. You give trials, that's what the Brotherhood, that's what you guys do. So we want a trial. And then I think once that happens, you know, they demand a trial by battle. And that'll be the way out, because once the gods find him innocent in the same way they had to release Sandor Clegane,
exactly,
they will have to release him. So it will come down to
remember what happened after Sandor sort of talked his way out of it and was like, you don't have, you know, this is all circumstantial, you can't prove it, I'm walking out of here. Remember what happened?
Yes.
Arya was like
Arya
was like, I don't think so. You murdered a baby.
Yeah. So, but then he has his trial and he kills Beric.
Oh,
so,
Brienne might have to best Lem. Possibly that was because of his stature.
I didn't even think of that.
Thinking that,
but I feel like. Doesn't Lem kind of occupy the spot of villain? He is the bad guy. He is the broken man who's actually out for blood and vengeance. He's the Punisher. He doesn't have a family left. Well, I guess he's not actually the Punisher, but like he wants revenge. That's his whole deal. That's what he wants. Just blood and guts. That's what he wants. It's the only thing he cares about at this point. And so it makes him villainous in a way.
And he's wearing the helm. As he started wearing the helm. So if you want a bit of kind of symbolism,
so it would make
parallel to that trial.
It would make sense for Brienne to try to kill the Hound, right? She has to kill the Hound, but George loves villains, and it's sad to lose a good one. And I feel like, is he really going to let a Chaos Agent, you know, who's dragging the BWB in a less noble path? Is he really going to let him die?
I think Well,
I guess if he's going to let him die,
the answer is yes. Move on.
If he's going to let him die, it would have to be something pretty worthwhile, you know. I think he lets villains go when it's some spectacular event or something.
It'll be that huge broken man theme, because Lem is, I believe, who Thoros was talking about when he said some of us were good men when this began. Yeah, and I do think that Lem, whether he has a secret identity or not,
he does. He definitely does.
If he has a secret identity, then you have a double kind of broken man theme going on. But even if he doesn't, he has become this broken thing.
If it's all about how we end up and not like all the bad stuff you do in the middle, does Lem get redeemed in some way? Does he get like maimed or wounded or something? And he realizes, I don't know, that he has to fight for the BWB, or he doesn't want to miss the Red Wedding Part 2, so he's gonna have to survive without an arm, like out of a, you know, it's just a scratch. Like that, is that gonna happen? We can't know.
No, we can't. This is why we've got to patiently wait in the winter.
Many ways this could play out, but
I'm now pulling for tis but a scratch. No, I'm pulling for that.
Okay, why don't we?
No arms, no legs.
Why don't we assume that
he just has his yellow cloak?
Sorry.
Why don't we assume that Brienne and Jaime survive Lady Stoneheart?
Okay.
And at some point, either they are released, or they make an escape, or somehow, you know, move on with their lives from this capture. So in the TV show, we saw Brienne head north to find Sansa Stark, part of her vow with Jaime and Oathkeeper. So do you think that Brienne could similarly head north in the books? Was this something that the showrunners just made up, or is this something based in what they know about the the upcoming book? What do we think, guys?
That's a great question.
Short answer, yes, sure, why not? Because that brings her closer to several of the things that I think are unresolved in her arc. Number
Principally Sansa, right?
Principally Sansa, but then there's another big Baldy that is unresolved in her arc. That
Are you talking about Stannis when you say Baldy?
Yes.
Is Stannis canonically bald? Did I miss that Stannis is canonically
He's got a little bit of hair and it looks like a crown. It's like some kind of like
and a jaw. He just like all the time with his jaw.
Big tooth grinding Baldy.
Oh dear.
Poor Stannis. Come on, just relax, buddy. Just relax. You're okay.
Patron Agnieszka wonders if Brienne could really kill Stannis in the books. Is Brienne too good of a person to go through with the deed? And will she excuse herself from the vengeance somehow? Maybe it could be a mercy killing. So I thought about this and thought, if it did come down to her killing Stannis, and I thought that what we saw in the show wasn't a million miles away from what could happen. I know a lot of people don't think it, but I thought that scene had a lot of things resonating that fit together strangely well. So sometimes knights have to do things that they don't want to do, even good knights. Remember that on Tarth, during her training, Brienne had to kill pigs. She hated it. It haunted her. She had nightmares. But then later she proved herself at Crackclaw Point with the bloody mummers. So it shows that she did all that stuff she didn't want to do, but it was all part of her becoming a true and efficient knight. Even if it's just not by name. So Brienne is capable of killing, and she holds her vows very dear. I suspect if Stannis makes some kind of confession that he did in fact know about Renly's shadow assassin, Brienne would feel fully justified in ending Stannis for personal and for knightly reasons. And Agnieszka's point about it could be a mercy killing is also a good one. Mm-hmm. I think there could be a culmination of valid reasons to kill Stannis if that's the way it goes. And remember that she took this vow and she explained to Catelyn, my first ambition is to kill Stannis above everything else. Yeah, that dates back to A Clash of Kings.
Listen, I don't think George is going to put something like saying like, hey, I'll be doing this and for however long you want me to, but mark my words, the day will come when I will kill Stannis Baratheon.
Yeah, it's Chekhov's murder threat. Yeah.
Yes.
And while we have a theme of vows, we also have a theme of mercy and what it means to be mercy or merciless. And so if you're correct in tying this into some kind of mercy killing, it would definitely fit the themes. If Brienne skews dark, which I don't see happening, but again, I don't see any of this happening. Is it Heil dead? Then it could go whatever way, but I just, to the north, I guess. Question for the group. When the shadow assassin kills Renly and Catelyn and Brienne see it, Catelyn knows what Stannis looks like. Does Brienne? Does she recognize the shape of the shadow? Because I think where it's Catelyn's point of view, right? And she sees that it looks like Stannis. And then they talk about it later. I guess my question is, does Brienne know that the shadow was Stannis already? Or is that something she'll find out? Because I think she knows it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think she realizes it because she had just seen Stannis. She was with them when they had their parlay with Stannis.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Even if she had never seen him before, she had seen him very recently.
That's right. So she might, and as he's eating, no, it was Renly eating the peach. I was like, as he was eating the peach, maybe she saw his little profile. No, wrong guy. Wrong peach eater.
He was grinding his teeth at the time.
or refusing the peach, yes.
I don't have a sense of humor.
Dear. So why don't we talk about a different theme? We've talked about all sorts today. Why don't we talk about knighthood and Brienne's servitude? Brienne is fighting all kinds of prejudices by being a woman in a man's world who will not bow down to gender expectations. So as a woman, as women, to both of you, how important is a character like Brienne in this story? How inspirational? Tana, I'd love it if you could answer this.
Oh, I mean, my heart. This is just the fangirl podcast of me saying how much I love Brienne and how important it is to see somebody who's a masculine presenting female who is possibly intersex, possibly straddles the line, obviously straddles the line between genders, doesn't feel comfortable really or safe in either world. It is unsafe for her to be a woman. It is unsafe for her to be a man. Yeah. These are things as a woman that I'm constantly aware of. The universes that I exist in are comics and to some degree literature. And in the comic books culture, thankfully, we're getting more diverse voices. We're getting more stories told from more perspectives. But I am acutely aware of my queerness and my femaleness, my womanness at shows and out in public. And I think it's very much science fiction has been a man's world for a very long time. The world has been a man's world for a very long time. And we don't even live in Westeros. So everything about Brienne's struggle is, has echoes of what I feel in my real life, but amplified in this, in this feudal system that is not designed to empower women, to give women agency over themselves. And Brienne is out here being a better knight, a bigger fighter, a more noble soul, and innocent all at once. She is, she's the perfect woman. And so my love for her is abiding and huge.
Wow, that was a really beautiful speech. I'm so glad that we captured it here. Yeah, really amazing. Thanks, Tana.
Yes.
So, Lady Gwyn, I've got a question for you. Patron Astronaut Yara points out that Brienne always seems to define herself by the lord or lady she is pledged to. Do we think she will move on from that and become more confident in herself?
Well, she's going to have to. She really is. She is going to be, whether Westeros likes it or not, whether they want to accept her for who she is or not, she's going to be the Lady of Evenfall Hall someday. She's going to be the Lady of Tarth. Her father is going to die. He has no other heirs. She talks about it all the time. She thinks so he deserves sons or whatever. She feels, that's that part of her self-loathing, but she's it. She's the heir to Tarth. And this might happen sooner than we might think or that she might hope, because at the end of A Dance with Dragons, it's noted that there is an invading army of sellswords on Tarth. So I fear for Lord Selwyn, and I fear that somehow very soon Brienne's arc, maybe the end, maybe we get to the end of Winds of Winter and she finds out something has happened to her father.
I never even thought of that. And I made a note of the fact that the Golden Company landed on Tarth, or that they were thinking some of their ships landed on Tarth or something. I never thought Lord Selwyn would die, you guys. I'm such a sucker.
Never thought of it until recently either. I mean, and things could happen. Maybe he just joins them or something, maybe.
We don't really know anything about him, right? Like we know nothing. We don't have a description of him, how big or small, how
old or fragile or not, or what kind of a warrior he is or not. All we know is that he sort of accepted Brienne. I mean, he kind of tried to marry her off and eventually just gave up and said, okay, well, it's just whatever.
He's Marla Hooch's dad in the amazing film A League of Their Own, right? Like Brienne is Marla Hooch. Hooch. What do you recommend? A lot of night games. But it's the dad who, has this kid that doesn't fit into her gender, but is a slugger. And he has that great line in the movie, if she were a man, I'd be talking to the Yankees right now. you know, and the love that dad in that movie gives to, you know, obviously it feels for Marla is so palpable and sweet. And so in my mind, my headcanon is always that Lord Selwyn is just Marla Hooch's dad, you know, and he opens his cabinet and it's all just like coffee mugs that say world's #1 dad. Like that's all they have there. Anyway, and they're all sapphire blue.
Okay, we've got time for one more topic, and I think you're both going to enjoy this topic. Something tells me that. So I want to talk about this fascinating relationship between Jaime and Brienne, and in brackets Cersei as the kind of completer of the triangle. I've always thought of Jaime, Brienne, and Cersei's dynamics as this triangle I keep mentioning. Cersei offers her kind of darkness to Jaime, but Brienne brings the best out in him. Do you agree with this assessment, Lady Gwyn?
Oh, yes, I do. First, as far as Jaime and Cersei, I want to say that in A Clash of Kings, Tyrion says to Cersei, I never understood what Jaime saw in you apart from his own reflection. And in Jaime's first point of view chapter, we get this as he's newly released into the Riverlands with Brienne. It says, the reflection in the water was a man he did not know. Not only was he bald, but he looked as though he had aged 5 years in that dungeon. His face was thinner with hollows under his eyes and lines he did not remember. I don't look as much like Cersei this way. She'll hate that. And for what it's worth, she really did. She was pissed.
She did.
She really did. But I think this business of those two being each other's reflections is highly pertinent, because in A Storm of Swords and A Feast for Crows, they start to see each other for what they truly are, especially Jaime and to Cersei, or Jaime viewing Cersei, what his opinion of her is. But by contrast, Brienne's influence has allowed Jaime to see himself for who he truly is. And she's really mediating this change in his arc. She's offering him a mirror to his soul. So I think that sort of idea of reflections versus of maybe a window, if you will, is going to be very pertinent.
One of the things that I love is the idea of being seen, of being truly seen. And I think with Jaime and Cersei, what they were seeing was a reflection of themselves. And Jaime does, and now he is not being seen by Cersei. He's, you know, she's seeing what he can be to her, and he is seeing a reflection of himself in a sort of Narcissus kind of way. And when Brienne sees Jaime in that bath, when he confesses to her, he is seen for the first time in his life and recognized. And as a queer person, being seen, having your secrets melt away and being seen, you know, in this dangerous way. If people knew this thing about me, I wouldn't be safe. And then I still remember, you know, coming out, and I know this is a far stretch, but Brian seeing Jaime matters, I think. And he feels for the first time in his life like someone sees him, not the reflection of his sister, him. And who am I? And what does that mean? And who can I be? And he starts, and it starts his big journey into, you know, becoming, upholding, choosing what vows you want to uphold, choosing, you know, your moral compass, leaning into it, deciding who you are. And I think, you know, that's the power of recognizing someone, of actually looking at them, of seeing them, of being seen. And I feel that through all their chapters.
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch at all. Sorry. I think that any human being just wants to be seen.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, you know, whoever you are, you want to and respond to being seen as yourself, not as something that other people want you to be.
Yeah.
And Brienne is also seeing him, and she's like a peer, someone he can respect, someone who knows his little trade of being a swords person. So it's kind of being respected by a peer as well. It's really fascinating dynamics. So the next question, will this kind of triangle we're talking about develop further into a love triangle if it isn't already? I think that it is a love triangle. They may not do the same things a stand, you know, that you see on a rom-com. It's not the same dynamics there, but they've got this
There are some
respect.
moments. They have moments.
They do. They have moments for sure, and
They have moments.
there's a definite romance, even if it's not the kind you're used to, in the way they admire each other, I think. And this is only going to get deeper, right?
Part of, I think, what draws Jaime to Brienne is that she's good at what he's good at. She's at the top of her field. They're fighting with swords, and he only confesses it in, you know, when we get his point of view chapters, and he thinks she was holding back. She could have kicked my ass. Like, I am used to being, you know, the Lion of Casterly Rock. I am the best there is. And she just beat me because she was holding back. And there is this recognized this respect for game. And so it's not only that he feels seen, but she excels at the thing he excels at. Mm-hmm. Very few people in the world do that. And now you have this woman who also sees him, but is better than him or as good as him, but nobler. There is something so powerful about that connection that Jaime, of course, is drawn to her because of this.
He can't dismiss
love this
her.
love story.
He in his mind, he dismisses people, you know, and kind of looks down on them when he's,
That's
you know,
a great
before
point.
He changes a bit. He can't dismiss Brienne. He can't do it because she's walked the same line he's walked, and she's, you know, matching him. So yeah.
But even remember when they're going down the river and they're trying to get away from the River Run men, and Brienne jumps out of the boat and climbs up the hill, and it's so cinematic. I see that scene come to life, and he's watching her like, what is this? I'm free, right? Like, what is this? And she gets a huge boulder and throws it like a superhero, and it smashes the boat. And then she runs down and like dives in the water and swims like a champion. And, you know, like an Olympic athlete in his back, and then just like starts rowing like we're free now. And he's like, what did I just see? Jaime can't do that. Nobody could do that. He just saw this, you know, godlike situation, and and he's speechless about it, right? Mm-hmm. Because she's Dunk. She's herself. There is no one. Jaime's famous line, "There are no men like me." Girl, there are no people like Brienne in this story. No, and he recognizes that.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So finally, to both of you, we've covered this just now, but let's go further. Why does Brienne like a character like Jaime, who entered the story as such a scoundrel? You know, everybody, you know, everyone reading hated him at one point. Why does Brienne like him?
Yeah. Well, first of all, shared trauma. Okay, shared trauma brings people together. Full stop. Right. At first, before they've gone through this stuff, she hates him. But then she starts to kind of admire his skills. Kind of like that's a two-way street, because he's admiring her, and you see that because we're seeing it through his point of view. But she's admiring him. Then she learns that he's been tragically misunderstood. This is something that kind of paints someone in a wounded animal kind of light. And when you are a sensitive person that loves stories and legends like Brienne, this is very attractive. You know, you've got this kind of sad little wounded animal that's so misunderstood, and you just want to take care of him. You want to gather him up and make everything okay for him, right? So I think for someone that's as motivated by idealism as her, that's very, very powerful. And I believe that in the end, we're going to see that it's very easy to turn strong feelings, such as she had for him at the beginning, of kind of loathing, kind of on their ear, and they have really just morphed into a completely different kind of strong feeling.
One of the things what you just said reminded me that initially Brienne does despise Jaime and makes no bones about it, but she still treats him with respect and dignity. And Jaime, when he disrespects somebody, does not treat them with respect or dignity. So he views this in those early moments as a weakness of Brienne, something he can exploit. And later in his private thoughts, we see that he sees that as a point in her favor, that this is the true meaning of honor and decency. Mm-hmm. He learns it by seeing her treat him, who she despised, with respect and dignity and hold her word, even though she hated him, even though Catelyn wasn't there. Nobody was making her be nice to him. She could have kicked him in the face, punched him in the gut. She could have been a dick about it, and she wasn't. And she was and at first he sees it as a weakness, but then he's like, oh, people can be like this? Is this honor?
Yeah. Could this be honor? My lost honor? Is that you?
Yes. And so she leads by example, and she turns things like dignity and respect away from what is weak about somebody, which is what I personally feel Jaime thought that was a weakness. And now he sees it as a sort of inner strength that Brian has and that he doesn't. And he starts trying to emulate that as the story goes on.
Excellent. Tana, thank you so much. It's the end of our episode, but do stick around because we want to talk about Tana's creative projects, and she won a Hugo Award last night.
Last night you had my book.
I practiced this beforehand. This is Tana's book written by Nadia Corford.
You guys.
Graphic novel, I should say. So years ago, we bought the original. Yoke Boy's holding the original first. That's the first edition.
Those are rare.
Volume 1 of the comic. This is the graphic novel. This is the one that won the award, right?
Yes, that is what. So originally through Dark Horse, we published a 4-issue miniseries, floppy comics like what you have. There are 4 of them total. And then they were collected together into the graphic novel that you're holding, which, as George pointed out, does not mean it's pornography. And last night, in maybe what was one of the highlights of my entire human life, George R.R. Martin, who was the Toastmaster of the 2020 Hugo Awards, announced my name in our category as the winner. And we had no idea. Nettie was convinced we were going to lose. And I mean, not convinced, like we were like, oh, this is a huge category and stiff competition and it's fine. And I was like consoling myself. George has lost the Hugo 16 times. I've already lost it 1 time. What's 2 times? This is fine. We'll be fine. And then he announced us as the winners. And I have not actually returned to my physical body yet. So I don't know what this podcast will be like, but I am floating among the clouds right now, my friends. Oh my God. Oh, well, so that was a whole thing. If you guys want to check out my Twitter handle, I know this is weird self-promotion. It's not have very few Twitter followers. But follow me if you want to. At Tana Ford on the Twitters, and I have like the pictures of the outfits George was wearing. Yep. I don't usually live tweet anything, but I was like, I'm live tweeting this.
It was fantastic.
So if you're interested, check it out. Oh my goodness.
Like Tana Ford, because that was fun. There's lots of good observations. And also check out the book. I mean, don't,
Yes, please. Or, if any of you brilliant people are in this chat and want to reach out to me, I have a few LaGuardia floppy comics. If you pay for shipping, I will sign them and mail them to you. Email me at hey@tanaford.com. And I might throw in some goodies. I don't know.
Hey.
So that's a thing we could do.
Tana, that's just so amazing that we got you the day after. And you won the Eisner Award last week as well. So
the Eisner Award is...
I have a cutout for it. I cut it out because we weren't going to be able to I did a live stream just with friends and like my parents for the award ceremony, but I knew I would want to like hold something if I won. So I just printed out a version of the Eisner.
And you've got it out. That's great.
Yeah, I know. And it's just like sitting on my desk.
Thank you.
I didn't even,
but that's a very big deal for comics. The Eisner, like huge. I think a lot of our circle are more familiar with the Hugo Awards, but Eisner's are a very big deal for comics.
It's the Oscar of comic books, and Karen Berger is my editor at Dark Horse. Is this an okay time to talk about this stuff?
Absolutely, this is the time. Yes.
Okay. The Dark Horse is who published LaGuardia, but Karen Berger, who is responsible for discovering talents like Neil Gaiman and Grant Morrison and the British invasion of comics. She ran Vertigo, an imprint of DC, for many, many years, and gave us things like The Watchmen and V for Vendetta and the Sandman series and all of this phenomenal stuff. And she retired, and comics said, no, you can't retire. And so she came back and has an imprint. And this book is one of the first books that has been published through Burger Books. So we just did, Nnedi Okorafor and I, with like the cover is of a Nigerian American doctor who is pregnant leading a protest march over the Brooklyn Bridge. It is an allegory on literal alien immigration at this moment in our American history. So please pick it up. It's as beautiful as I could make it. But
if you guys on the podcast haven't heard, it's LaGuardia, because I keep thinking we show it, but we're not actually saying it.
Yes,
Carry on.
It is. Yes, it's LaGuardia, and it's named that because it is an interstellar airport in the future universe. In Nnedi Okorafor's Binti universe, 2 airports have interstellar travel. One of them is in Lagos, Nigeria. The other is LaGuardia International and Interplanetary Airport, which is where the name comes from. Yeah. So it is named after the airport, but it is an allegory of alien immigration that I'm fiercely proud of. And I found out today because Karen emailed me this morning, because I have a relationship with Karen Berger, which blows my mind. She said that in her illustrious career, this winning the Eisner and the Hugo has only happened once. Do you know, pop quiz, no one will answer this. Do you know what book won it?
Prior to this?
Yes, that she edited. The original Sandman
did it.
Sandman. Neil Gaiman and I now have the same, I don't know, reality check bragging rights, accolades.
Wow. Yeah.
I am floating. I'm not even in my body right now. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm
5 goblins in a Tana suit.
I can't imagine being you right now.
We went to the beach this morning and I just needed to see the sunrise. Oh man. Anyway. And there's a hurricane in Florida right now. I'm podcasting from Florida. Thank God the storm gods hadn't made my power go out yet.
Thank you, storm gods.
I kept saying to you, the storm gods, Brienne is from the Stormlands.
We did make a blood sacrifice earlier.
We did. Yep. Hide it. Yeah. The body is somewhere behind Matt. So you just don't go left or right. No one will see it. Oh my goodness. Oh guys. So it has been a week. We found out about the Eisners last weekend. We found about the Hugos last night, and George announced it. He said my name, which I'm legally changing to Tanya, since that's what his New Jersey accent did to my name. I'm fine with it, man. T-A-N with a little curly Q over the N-A. That's my name now. That's what I'm going to go by forever. He wore a silver hat. I'm going to print it out on a big canvas thing and put it in the middle of my house.
Tana Ford. Hugo Award winner. Tana Ford.
So lucky. We're so lucky to have you on, Tana.
All men must
drink. And women.
Okay,
like
guys.
Men, women, everyone, humans. Go ahead.
I got a piece of lemon in my drink.
Why don't you tell our listeners and watchers what we have lined up for next week, Lady Gwyn?
Oh, well, next week the fun is going to continue. We're going to be talking about Jaime Lannister, with KW Dent from Blood of the Podcast. So I hope that you guys will join us right here, same time next week, Saturday at 5 for that. In the meantime, please don't forget, if you haven't already, check out our newest episode, which is whoops, I put the wrong one up there, which is the 3rd edition of our primer, all about the Riverlands. So check that out. And
they're so good. You guys are brilliant geniuses, and we are not worthy to have you. You have made my own life in this fandom so much better, so much richer. I'm so glad that you guys exist. I'm so honored to be here.
I just got called a genius by a Hugo Award winner, so it doesn't get any better.
You know it's real.
Right now, but we're so thankful to you for being here.
Thanks to all of you who have tuned in today. If you'd like to support the podcast, we've got a Patreon campaign, so you can look us up there and be a patron if you want. And so we'll see you next week.